Do you know that there are 5 love languages? I talk about that in my new book, Love the One You're With. I'm Lee Ellis. You're about to hear a sample from Chapter 5, Ways to Improve Your Marriage.
Chapter 5, Ways to Improve Your Marriage. When we seek to discover the best in others, we somehow bring out the best in ourselves. William Arthur Ward. Tammy thought that the only way to improve her marriage was for Chad to change some things she was not happy about. She nagged him and used passive-aggressive comments when he did something she didn't like. She started reading a book on ways to improve her marriage. She began to realize that Chad didn't have to change a thing in order for her to be happy with him again. She realized that she had more control over the way she felt in her relationship than she previously understood. The power of positive thinking. There is a reason why you married the person you married. They have some qualities that you adore, even if you have lost sight of them. The first and most important thing I'm going to tell you is something that is going to become a theme of this book. Start paying attention to the things you like about your partner and tell them. If this is hard to get into your mind at the moment, take out a piece of paper and start writing all the things you like about your spouse. I promise you will come up with some things and it will completely shift the way you feel. Get to know your partner on a deeper level. Do you feel like you know your husband or wife? What are their dreams and aspirations for the future? Where do they see themselves and you as a couple in 20 years? What would be their biggest dream come true? What is one of their favorite childhood memories? What did they dream of when they were a child? Do you know the answers to these questions? If you said no, now might be a good time to ask. This leads me to another important point. The biggest gift you can give your partner is to support their dreams. I know, you probably don't feel supported right now either, but you have to take the first step. If you keep waiting for your partner to change or be supportive before you will be happy, you might be waiting a long time. Start telling your partner what you like about them and start asking them questions right now. Get to know him or her on a deeper level. When they tell you their biggest aspirations and dreams, it is very important that you listen without judgment. For example, my husband has a dream of quitting his job, buying a big sailboat, and sailing around the world. I have not always been supportive of that dream because we have a daughter who is in school, I have a job I love, we own a house, etc. I have scoffed at the idea of picking up everything and sailing around the world. But I have to let him have his dream. Now, when I visualize us in the future, I keep seeing us on a boat in the Caribbean. How great is that? Nurture your partner's dreams. Love languages. Do you know your partner's love language? Most people don't even know what that means, but it is very important. There is a book called The 5 Love Languages. In it, the author explains that there are different ways people feel and express their love. The first one is words of affirmation. This is exactly what I was talking about earlier. Some people feel loved when you notice the good things they are doing or their positive qualities and you tell them about it. People also tend to express their love for you according to their main love language. The second love language is gifts. A person whose love language is gifts feels love when they receive a gift and they show their love by giving gifts. This doesn't mean that they have to receive expensive gifts all the time, but just buying them something thoughtful once in a while can go a long way. The third love language is physical touch. This is not necessarily sex, but just physical affection such as cuddling, holding hands, getting massaged, etc. When this is someone's love language, you might be surprised at how much a relationship will improve if they regularly receive loving hugs from their partner. The fourth love language is quality time. In this one, the most important thing is spending time doing things together. It doesn't mean that you have to spend all of your time together. In fact, it is healthy to have your own interests and hobbies that are separate from your partner's. But spending time together doing something that you both enjoy is important, even if it is not your first love language. The last love language is acts of service. When someone's love language is acts of service, They feel loved when their partner does things for them, like cleaning the house, washing their car, or mowing the lawn. This one can often be easily misinterpreted. If your partner gets mad because they don't feel like you have done enough around the house, it can trigger something inside you that makes you mad as well. Your feelings about that might change if you realize that he or she is only acting that way because it is their love language. After reading the 5 love languages, which one or ones most resonate with you? What makes you feel loved, and how do you express your love? Which one do you think is your partner's? I have some clients, Tracy and John, who have different love languages, and it has caused some problems. Tracy's love language is physical touch. She feels loved when she gets to cuddle with John, hold hands, etc. John's love language is acts of service, so he feels loved when Tracy washes the dishes or makes the bed. Before they came to see me, Tracy would complain that the only time she ever got physical attention from John is when they were having sex. She would try to hold hands with him and curl up with him to watch a movie, but John either didn't seem interested or he took it as an advancement towards sex. Since John's love language is acts of service, he would complain when he got home and the house was a mess. This made Tracy angry and normally started an argument. In order to make it up to Tracy, John would wash her car or mow the lawn, but he never got the acknowledgement he was expecting when he did these things for her. Does it seem clear how Tracy and John are missing the mark with each other? When I explained the love languages to them, it changed everything. Tracy started to realize that John was not as old-fashioned as she thought, just wanting her to clean the house because she was a woman. She started being more mindful of getting things done around the house because she knew it made John feel loved. Then when John came home and the house was clean, he automatically became more affectionate. When John realized that Tracy felt loved when he held her hand or gave her a back rub, he made a conscious effort to be more affectionate. The more he was physically affectionate with her, the more she wanted to do things for him. Then, without even working on it directly, it completely turned their sex life around because they both started feeling important and loved. If you don't know you or your partner's love languages, there is a free online quiz you can take to find out. http://www.5lovelanguages.com/profile/couples/. It is also a fun way of bringing up ways to improve your marriage and let your partner know they are important to you. Communication styles. Since everyone wants to talk about it, I feel compelled to tell you more about communication. The first thing you need to know is that there are 4 different communication styles. I'm going to briefly explain them, then I will go into more detail. There is passive, where you don't communicate your needs or desires and possibly let other people walk all over you. If someone who is passive never lets their feelings out in some way, it can literally make them sick. The second communication style is aggressive, where you communicate your needs loudly and you don't take the other person's feelings into consideration. Then there is passive-aggressive, where you manipulate the other person in an effort to get your needs met. The last communication style is assertive, where you openly and honestly express your desires and ask for what you need, while also being considerate of the other person's feelings. Which communication style sounds the healthiest to you? Which communication style do you think you and your partner use most often? Assertiveness is the thing we should all strive for, but it's not always easy if you have a long history of communicating in a different way. Going back to John and Tracy, how do you think John could most effectively get Tracy to help him with the dishes? If he were being passive, he would not say anything about it and he would just do it himself. The problem with this lack of communication is that it leads to resentment. He is most likely stewing inside and is definitely not putting out a loving energy towards Tracy. If he were being aggressive, he would yell at her and tell her she needs to help him right now because he is getting angry. If he were being passive-aggressive, he would say something like, "You never help me with the dishes." Using any of these communication styles will most likely lead to an argument, either immediately or down the road. How could John communicate assertively in this situation? He could say, "Tracy, would you please help me with the dishes?" It sounds simple, right? Start paying attention to you and your partner's styles. If you are having problems, you might not be using the assertive communication style very often. What about when there is something bothering you that you feel you need to discuss with your partner? What communication style do you use then? When do you bring it up? Most people wait until they can't take it anymore and they end up trying to discuss it when they are in the middle of the problem. Even if you tend to use another communication style more often, you can get aggressive when you feel like you've had enough. The problem with getting aggressive is obvious, but how could you do it differently? A very different thing to remember is to bring up the problem at a neutral time. If you discuss things right when you are in the middle of the problem, you are likely to be angry and it will almost always lead to an argument. Let's say John wants to talk to Tracy about the fact that he feels like he always has to do all the chores around the house. He gets home from work on a day when Tracy has been at home all day and the house is a mess. He ends up yelling at Tracy and saying, "What have you been doing all day? The house is a mess." How well do you think this is going to go over? A better way looks something like this. John and Tracy are eating dinner together, and John says he wants to talk about the fact that they seem to have a hard time keeping the house clean. He tells Tracy he knows the amount of work that needs to be done around the house can be overwhelming, and he asks for her suggestions that would make it easier for them to get it done together. This leads to another important point. If John asks Tracy to help him do the dishes and Tracy's in the middle of something important to her, what do you think would be her best response? We are taught to put other people first and to sacrifice for our partners, right? So if she stops doing something that is important to her and helps him with the dishes, even though she is screaming no inside, what do you think will happen over time? Remember, saying yes when you really mean no leads to resentment. And that is not to say that Tracy should just let John do all the chores and never help with the dishes. Something that would work better is if she would say something like, "John, I know it is important to you that I would help with the dishes. Right now I'm in the middle of something that is important to me. How about you wash the dishes now, and when I'm finished I will dry them and put them away?" Then John gets what he wants, and Tracy helps John in a way that doesn't create resentment. Some people check in at the end of each day to see how the other person's day went. This is a good thing to do, but let me tell you how it can go wrong. Let's say Tracy had a disagreement with a coworker and she wants to tell John about it. What do you think she wants from him when she tells John about how things happened and how angry she is feeling? John's instinct is to give her advice about how she could resolve the issue with her coworker. Does this sound familiar? John is absolutely doing his best to be supportive, but he is completely missing the mark with Tracy. What she actually needs is for him to listen and be empathetic. A more supportive response would be, "Wow, Tracy, it sounds like you had a hard day. I bet you were really feeling angry when she did that." Then if Tracy asks for advice on how to solve the problem, by all means give her advice. But don't give advice to your partner unless they ask for it. Nurture your relationship and yourself. Remember, taking the best care of yourself is taking the best care of others. This means that you should take time to nurture yourself and do things that you love. This ties into saying yes when you really mean no. It has been ingrained in us that if we do not make sacrifices for other people, we are being selfish. But as you can see in the example with Tracy and John, making the sacrifice can lead to resentment. Think about it this way. When are you in the best mood? When you have been doing something you love, right? If you have the day off and you clean the house all day because this is what your husband wants you to do, how do you feel when he gets home from work? But what if you go to a yoga class and have lunch with a friend? Afterwards, you might feel like spending some time cleaning the house because you know it is important to your husband. Then when he gets home, you can greet him with love rather than anger. I will get more into the how of taking the best care of yourself in Chapter 7. Being present with your partner can greatly improve your relationship. Remember that it is important to spend quality time together, even if it is not your first love language. How often do you sit and talk or even watch a movie together without getting on your phone, iPad, or reading a book? I have seen some couples where the absolute biggest problem they have is that one or both of them is constantly on social media. It is definitely okay to have some times when you are not engaged with each other, but it is not okay for it to be all the time. Put the phone down. Talk to your partner. This chapter is important, so let me review. Ask questions to get to know your partner better. Support your partner's life dreams, even if you think they are unrealistic. Pay attention to things you like about your partner and tell them. Know and be mindful of your partner's love languages. Take the best care of yourself so that you want to take the best care of your partner. Bring up problems at a neutral time and be assertive. Spend time connecting with your partner without any distractions, such as your phone. Be empathetic rather than giving advice.
Did you know that there are 5 different love languages? I talk about that in my new book, Love the One You're With. You're about to hear a sample from chapter 5, which is ways to improve your marriage.
See? You got it.
I was really recording that.
Oh, were you recording it?
I think you need to keep it.